What's up, it's your boy Dave. Today we are talking about cheese.
Sometimes I dream about cheese.
Finally, a video about cheese from Dave the Magical Cheese Wizard.
What? This is a moment in history! Take a picture!
Anyways, with that said, let us begin. Cheese is basically a loaf of milk. Okay, video over. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Jokes aside, it's coagulated milk. It has proteins and fat from milk, and acidified and either the enzymes of rennet or bacterial enzymes with similar activity are added to cause the protein to coagulate. The solids are then separated from liquids and pressed into cheese. There are over 1,000 types of cheese that exist, like cheddar, parmesan, or my absolute favorite, kashar. Their texture and flavor depends on the milk to the point of the animal ate. You can flavor them with garlic, pepper, chives, etc. Most cheeses are acidified by bacteria, which turn milk sugars into lactic acid, aka fermentation. Cheese is portable, has long shelf life and a high content of fat, protein, calcium and phosphorus. The word cheese comes from Latin cases, from which the modern word casein is derived, and the earliest source of the word comes from Proto-Indo-European root kvat, which means ferment, that gave rise to cheese, or says then cheese. Cheese is an ancient food whose origins predate recorded history. There is basically nowhere that it was first invented, and it was either in Europe, Central Asia or the Middle East. Cheese making may have begun independently of this by pressing and salting of curdled milk to preserve it, and then they realized putting into animal gore gave it a better form. Early archaeological evidence of Egyptian cheese has been found in Egyptian tomb murals dating to about 2000 BCE. The earliest ever discovered preserved cheese was found on mummies in Shayami. That's what's called. Shayami Cemetery in the Taklamakan Desert in Xinjiang, China, dating as early as 1615 BCE. In ancient Greece, Aristeus discovered cheese. Anglo-Saxons in England named an entire village by the Thames Sevicon, or cheese farm. It is important that Vlach shepherds from Thessaly and Pindus mountains in modern Greece provided cheese for Istanbul or Constantinople. Many cheeses popular today were first recorded in the late Middle Ages or after. Cheeses such as cheddar around 15,000, Parmesan in 1597, Gouda in 1697, and Cambridge in 1791 show post-Middle Ages dates. In 1546, the Proverbs of John Haywood claimed the moon is made of green cheese. Green may refer here not to the color, but being new or on age. Variations of this sentiment were long repeated, and NASA used this myth for an April Fool's joke in 2006. Until the modern day, along with European culture, cheese was nearly unheard of in the East Asian cultures and in pre-Columbian Americas, and had only limited use in sub-Mediterranean Africa, mainly being widespread and popular only in Europe, the Middle East, the Indian subcontinent, Tibet, and other areas controlled by those cultures. The first factory for the industrial production of cheese opened in Switzerland in 1815, but the United States made it more successful. Usually, Jesse Williams is credited for this, who in 1851 started making cheese in an assembly line fashion, using the milk from neighboring farms. This made cheddar-like cheese one of the first US industrial foods. The 1860s saw the beginnings of mass produced rennet, and by the turn of the century scientists were producing pure microbial cultures. Before then, bacteria in cheese making had come from the environments or from recycling an earlier batch's way. The pure cultures meant a more standardized cheese that could be produced. Factory-made cheese overtook traditional cheese making in the Second World War, and factories have been source of both cheese in America and Europe ever since. Even though I gave a small explanation of how cheese is made in the intro, I still want to go a bit in depth. To make cheese, you need to boil milk to grow bacteria that feed on lactose and ferment the lactose into acid. These bacteria in milk can be wild if used unpasteurized milk from a culture frozen as starter bacteria. Bacteria which only produce only lactic acid during fermentation are homofermentive that also produce lactic acid and other compounds such as carbon dioxide, alcohol, aldehyde, and ketones are heterofermentive. Fermentation using homofermentative bacteria is important in the production of cheeses such as cheddar, where clean acid flavor is required. Startle cultures are chosen to give a cheese its specific characteristics. In the case of mold-ripened cheese such as Stilton, Roquefort, or Camembert, mold spores may be added to milk in cheese vat, or can be added later to cheese curd. During the fermentation process, once sufficient lactic acid has been developed, rennet is added to cause the casein to participate. Rennet contains an enzyme I'm not going to pronounce that, which converts the casein into para-casein. It's basically a bunch of biology bullshit that I would rather not talk about. As the curd is formed, milk fat is trapped in the casein matrix. After adding the rennet, the cheese milk is left to form curds over a period of time. Once the cheese curd is judged to be ready, the cheese whey must be released. As with many foods, the presence of water and bacteria in it encourages decomposition. To prevent such decomposition, it is necessary to remove most of the water from the cheese milk and hence cheese curd. To make practical dehydration of the curd, there are several ways to separate the curd from the whey. In making cheddar or many other hard cheeses, the curd is cut into small cubes and the temperature is raised approximately 39 degrees or 102 Fahrenheit to scald all the curd particles. Synergy occurs and cheese whey is expressed in the particles. The cheddar curds and whey are often transferred from the cheese vat to a cooling table, which contains screens that allow the whey to drain, but which trap the curd. The curd is cut using a long blunt knives and blocks that cut or turned by cheesemaker to promote the release of cheese whey in the process known as cheddaring. During this process, the acidity of the curd increases to a desired level. The curd is then milled into ribbon-shaped pieces and salt is mixed into the arrests acidic development. The salted green cheese curd is put into cheese molds lined with cheesecloths and pressed overnight to allow the curd particles to bind together. The pressed blocks of cheese are then removed from the cheese mold and are either bound with muslin-like cloth or wax or vacuum packed in plastic bags to be stored for maturation. Vacuum packing removes oxygen, prevents mold growth during maturation, which, depending on the wanted final product, may or may not be desirable characteristics. Anyways, that's it for this video, and don't worry viewer, it's okay to vibe. With that said, goodbye and I'll see you later.